Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was a League Summoner. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Rough night, Rias? Evelyn asked, smiling teasingly at the crimson-haired heiress, as she stifled another yawn behind the back of her hand, making Rias blush before she gave the mischievous champion a light, but warning glare. The two of them were currently on the train making its way to Agrees with the rest of the Occult Research Club, along with Kuroka, Lafay and Office, the last of whom had been honorably invited by the heirs to their resort, while they were just told to bring Kuroka along with them by Sikfair. She didn't tell them the reason, but everyone had feeling that it had something to do with her case. You have been yawning all morning, Rias. You and Naruto-kun didn't get much sleep last night. Akeno chimed in, smiling teasingly as she put her card down. You bet they didn't, Akeno-chan. Evelyn laughed while surfing her cards. Rias, Evelyn and the girls of the Occult Research Club were currently playing a game of cards with each other, while the boys were minding their own business in their own seats, with Naruto, currently fused with the Yordle Professor Heimerdinger, helping Azazel with his inventions which laid on the table between them. Everyone had decided to ignore the two, because as Evelyn had said it, they were talking alien language, and it was nigh impossible for them to understand what they were saying. It took a couple of seconds for the other girls to catch the meaning behind Akeno and Evelyn's words, making them blush beet red, with the exceptions being the airhead one like Zenobia, while Irina was smiling awkwardly and nervously to the realization. Steam burst from Ravel's ears like she was overheating, while Kaneko was also wearing a glare as she eyed the older girls of their group in annoyance. So, wanna fill us with the juicy details? Evelyn asked, leaning toward Rias after she had played the cards. Rias didn't know how to respond to that suggestion, despite knowing for a fact that Evelyn were messing with her and literally every other girl who had romantic feeling for her boyfriend sitting around them. Rias doubted that Evelyn didn't know everything already. Fortunately for Rias, she didn't have to answer Evelyn, at least, not just yet, as Ashia spoke up nervously. Please, Evelyn-san, you are making everyone uncomfortable. Evelyn interrupted, cutting Ashia's off and finishing her sentence for her at the same time. The ancient demon then turned to Ashia and placed both hands on the blonde's shoulders, making her flinch while looking at the older woman in surprise. TSK, no, Ashia-chan, what have I been telling you? You need to tough up if you wish to compete with these girls. I mean, they might have bigger tits than you, but that doesn't mean you don't have your own charms. Ashia choked, blushing up a storm as Evelyn shook her, while Rias and Akeno didn't know if they should feel offended or not. What I am trying to say is, you can't keep shying away from these subjects, if you want to stand a chance against girls like Rias and Akeno here. Do you know how hard Naruto liked to fuck his girls? And that's enough, Evelyn. Grafia spoke up sternly as she approached their table with a tray of tea and snacks, saving Ashia as she looked like she's about to faint. Grafia. If you think you can do a better job of toughening Ashia up, then please, don't mind my 1500 year of collective experience. Evelyn said as she released Ashia from her hold, allowing Irina and Zenobia to catch her before she could fall over and pass out in embarrassment before returning Grafia's cold glare with a soft, playful laugh. The silver-haired maid, of course, wasn't amused as she served Rias her coffee and the other their drinks and snacks. So did you and Naruto-kun really have sex all night, Rias? Akeno. They do realize that I can hear what they are saying, right? Naruto asked, speaking in Heimdall's thick German accent, while not looking up from the device he was putting together based on Azazel's design, making the governor laugh in amusement as he worked on something similar. It'll be much easier if you try not to think about it, kid. Even with the professor's brain, I doubt even you can come any closer to understanding women. Azazel grinned as Naruto finished the device he had been working on and tossed it to him, catching it in his hand before giving it an examining look. Now this is what I call impressive. Even I can't do any better than this. You can thank Professor Heimerdinger for it, Mr. Azazel. It's the professor, not me. Naruto politely said, before he accepted a cup of coffee from Grafia, who walked over to them, and offered it to him. Thank you, Miss Grafia. You know how weird you sound being all respectful and polite? Azazel asked as Grafia hid an amused smile behind her hand as she walked away. Not that I am complaining, but what's with the German accent? I want to see just how far my connection with a single champion can go. If mentality they are much stronger than I do, so I let the professor to influence me with his personality. It appears that even my voice is affected, just as much as my personality and intelligence are, Mr. Azazel. Naruto answered as he picked up a screwdriver and began to work on another device for Azazel, fixing it in record time before moving on to the next. Is there a specific reason why you decided to do it now? Azazel asked, and Naruto didn't waste any time to look up from the prototype he was putting together, and give Azazel a small, almost unnoticeable nod, before he took out a folded piece of paper under his champion watch, and gave it to Azazel, who had his eyes widen in surprise after unfolding it and reading the content inside. I trust that you can easily make the arrangement, Mr. Azazel. Naruto spoke. You can trust me on this one, Naruto. The dual-colored hair governor nodded after putting the piece of paper in his pocket. The two teacher and student professor then continued to work on the artificial sacred gear prototypes for several more minutes, until they finally arrived at Agrees train station, located near the edge of Agrees. If Naruto hadn't been for the fact that it was floating on the sky, Naruto would have mistaken Agrees to be another human city, even though he doubted it could have been anything less than one of the greatest. Before Heimerdinger separated from him and returned to Runeterra, Naruto had taken a look at the city suspended in the sky, and could almost instantly tell that Agrees seemed to be controlling the flow of air in the entire underworld. How and with what technology, Heimerdinger Naruto really wanted to know, but he immediately lost that interest when the professor disappeared. Wow, you fans are really everywhere, Rias. Evelyn made the comment while giggling in amusement. I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of KDA fans out there too, Evelyn. Rias shrugged as she replied the sultry demoness, still feeling slightly annoyed at her because of their previous conversation. Just like when the group first arrived in the underworld, a great cheer went up the moment they exited the train. As they had expected, not only was the Agrees station filled with young devils and children who idolized Rias, but also paparazzi and reporters who wished to know more about the KDA and their future activities in the music industry. It would be a huge understatement to say that Ari, Evelyn, Kaisa and Akali had left a big impression at the opening ceremony of the Youth Devil Tournament. Still, the Occult Research Club soon saw that some fans weren't here just for Rias and Evelyn, but for them as well, the members of her peerage. Naruto wasn't surprised, however, as Ravel had told him yesterday that their popularities, his in particular, had skyrocketed, considering their recent victory against the Citri in the first match of Youth Devil Rating Game Tournament, for his relationship with Rias, and ties with Sona and the KDA, which unfortunately also brought him a lot of hate from their fans. Naruto-kun. Rias. Over here. When Naruto and the rest of the orc walked out of the train station a few minutes later, having spent some time greeting their fans, and also dragging Evelyn away from some crazy fanboys who wanted her to scratch them, just like what her virtual self did to those statues in the music video More, and doing an interview. He immediately spotted Sakura waving her hand and smiling brightly at him, while standing beside an expensive-looking limousine on the driveway of the station, with her Queen Olivian standing dutifully at her side as always. The beautiful and attractive Aguirre's heiress was currently wearing a more casual attire, a light blue jacket over a buttoned-up blouse with accessories that had the Aguirre's seal on them, finishing with a mini skirt and high boots. Olivian, as usual, was dressed in his butler uniform. Good morning, everyone. Sakura smiled, exchanging friendly greetings with Rias, Naruto and the rest of the orc, as her queen lowered his hat to them. Eventually, the blonde turned her attention over to Office, and gave her a respectful smile, as well as a bull Office-sama, welcome you to Agrees. It's my honor to. Oh, I remember you. Office cut her off, making Sakura look up at the Ouroboros dragon god. You are that girl who went crazy when Naruto summoned those giant robots, and let you ride with him in one. Ah. Sakura was a little taken aback by Office's remark, cheeks dusting pink while Naruto and everyone else were doing their absolute hardest to be polite, and keeping themselves from just bursting out in laughter, sweat dropping as they remembered how Sakura had screamed and squealed like an overly excited fangirl when she saw Naruto's Mecha Kingdom mechs. Ahem, so anyway. Rias cleared her throat, deciding to save her childhood friend of the embarrassment, but she highly doubted that Sakura was embarrassed of being a Mecha Otaku C-chan. I think we should take our leave before the fans get here. Oh right. Regaining her composure, Sakura sat and nodded her head to Olivian, making him lower his head to her before turning around and raising his hand in the air, making a second expensive-looking limousine, and a large tour bus move toward them, entering the station's driveway. These two vehicles will give you guys a tour around Agrees before taking you to the resort. What about you, C-chan? Naruto couldn't help but ask. Sakura smiled before answering his question. You are coming to Serena Hotel with me, Naruto-kun. Damn, I know that you are a devil, girl, but that is just bold. Evelyn whistled with a teasing smile, making Naruto give her what the fuck look, while Rias and some other girls pouted. It's not like that, please don't get the wrong idea. Blushing, Sakura quickly corrected herself while adjusting her glasses, finding the error in her request to Naruto. My parents are currently at Serena Hotel expecting him, so it's only logical for him to come with me there to see them first before joining with you guys at the resort. I get it, don't worry about it, C-chan. Naruto shook his head. Thank you, Naruto. She nodded her head gratefully at him, before looking at Kuroka, who was standing beside her sister, wearing a cap to hide her face from the public. Even though news of the Aguirre's reopening her case and doing a proper investigation this time with Sakura taking the lead had gotten out, Kuroka was still one of the underworld's most wanted criminals, and it wouldn't do their public images, especially Ria's, any good as she was constantly seen hanging around with them. Kuroka, you are coming with us too. Huh? Me? Kuroka couldn't help but ask, pointing at herself. There are a couple of questions we'd like to ask you about your former master. Sakura nodded, saying so in a serious tone, and making the orc widen their eyes in surprise, no one more so than Kaneko herself. We can talk more about it once we are at the hotel. And with that, the group entered the vehicles, with Rias deciding that she would sit with her family in the tour bus for sightseeing, and letting Office have the entire second limousine for herself and LaFay, who was told by Kuroka to watch over Office, as she entered Sekvera's vehicle with her and Naruto. They soon parted way with Rias and the others, and was taken to a massive building in the city's epicenter, easily the tallest building there. The place is named after my mother's, Sekvera explained, making Naruto nod his head in understanding as he beheld the gleaming building of spotless and stainless steel and glass with Kuroka, who looked very surprised for someone who had served a high-class devil for many years. Their limousine drove them to an underground garage, which had an elevator that the four of them stepped into once they had left the limousine. It did not take it long for the doors of the elevator to reopen, revealing an expansive hallway with soft carpet and columns, lined the wall at even intervals. Walking to the set of double doors at the end of the hallway, being bowed to by a pair of devils as they opened the doors for them, Naruto followed Sekvera into an expansive room even larger and fancier looking than the hallway itself, while Kuroka waited outside with Olivian. There weren't many devils inside the room at the moment, but two seemed to stand out more than the rest, with their fancy robes and the elegant and noble aura about them, somewhat reminding him of Ria's parents. Due to the striking resemblances to Sekvera, Naruto knew that the couple were her parents. Otusama, Akasama. Sekvera addressed them, confirming Naruto's assumption after the devils they had been talking to left, letting them turn their attention fully to their daughter, and Naruto. Sekvera, my daughter. Lord Aguirre spoke, smiling warmly at Sekvera as she lowered her head a little to him and her mother. You finally brought the boy you couldn't stop talking about before us. Tusama. Dear, don't embarrass our daughter like that in front of her friend. Lady Aguirre told her husband in a manner that was not unlike how Velenana Gremory talked to her husband Xioticus, but he merely laughed in response, before she turned back to look at Naruto. Sekvera, dear, why don't you introduce us? Yes, Kasama. Sekvera said before she gestured a hand to Naruto, who took a step forward with a grin. This is Naruto Uzumaki, the pawn of Ria's Gremory. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir ma'am. Naruto smiled at them and shook Lord Aguirre's hand when he offered it to him, looking at Sekvera's mother and giving her a smile, as she nodded her head to him and did the same thing in response. Tusama, Kasama. Sekvera then said, looking at her father, if you excuse me, I must return to my work on the case of the stray devil Kuroka. Very well. Lord Aguirre smiled at his daughter, allowing her to take her leave after exchanging a look with Naruto, before speaking to the blonde once Sekvera had left the room. So, you are the young man who can summon real-life mechs. I actually couldn't quite believe it until I saw the news of the battle with my own eyes. Sekvera really loves mecha, doesn't she? Naruto smiled, believing that her parents were well aware of her passion, even though it was a little controversial for someone of her standard and status. Believe it or not, it was I who told her to watch those mecha anime, and taught her how to relax with them, because I was worried that her mental fortitude would be crushed by the stress of being the future Archduke. The Archduke answered with a chuckle, making Naruto white in his eyes in surprise. Back then, I didn't quite expect that my daughter would become so passionate about giant robots, but now I'm kinda glad that she did. I didn't know. Naruto admitted honestly, looking at the man in a new light. Now that we are here, we can easily fix that, can't we? Lord Aguirre smiled as he placed a hand on his shoulder. Come on, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? We have heard many great things about you, son, but we'd love to know more about the man who made our daughter's dream come true. Naruto could only laugh at that, albeit a little nervously as he walked with Lord and Lady Aguirre to a table. For some reason, this meeting reminded him of the ones that he had been having with Lord and Lady Gremory. This is a strange place for a meeting, you know. Sekvera stated when she walked onto the terrace of Serena Hotel and found Naruto standing with his back leaning against the balcony. How did it go with my parents? It went well. Naruto answered with a grin. They are both kind people. They are. Sekvera said, smiling at the blonde as she came to stand at his side. What about Kuroka? Did she answer everything you want to know? She's surprisingly cooperative. Sekvera answered with a small smile, and yes, she answered every answer I want to know. Good to know. Naruto smiled as he leaned his back. So is there a specific reason you want me to come all the way up here? Sekvera trailed off when she felt someone poking her shoulder, and turned her head around to see a monkey-like man grinning at her while balancing himself on his staff. You are Si-chan, meet my senpai in the Wujard, Wukong. Naruto introduced them with a grin as he came to stand beside the smirking Monkey King, who then bumped his fist with him before leaping into the air and doing a backflip as he fell off the building. Ah! Sekvera gasped but immediately had to raise a hand to cover her face, when the entire world was covered in brilliant white light, which vanished after a second, and allowed Sekvera to come face to face with the giant Wukong, in his Lancer Stratus form, that toppled over all the skyscrapers in the area. This is. Down below, the people gasped and looked up at Lancer Stratus Wukong, in both shock and amazement, sharing Sekvera's expression while standing behind the perimeter that had been set up by the servants of the Aguirre's family, as Naruto had talked to her parents beforehand about what he wanted to do for their daughter. The Aguirre's air spluttered, her eyes sparkling with both shock and excitement, as she looked up at another real-life mech. She then looked down at Naruto as he offered her his hand. Come on, C-chan. He smiled and Sakura Gears found herself smiling warmly at him before putting her hand onto his, letting Naruto grasp it gently before leading her toward the open palm of Lancer Stratus Wukong. Azazel. Surzich's Lucifer addressed the leader of his respective faction, upon arriving in a large training ground, with the rest of his peerage via teleportation magic circle, which had been prepared beforehand by his personal assistant, Grafia. Sup Surzich's. Azazel grinned as he raised a hand to greet the crimson-haired super devil and his peerage. How's your day? Pretty good. I had a meeting with Lord Zekrom Bale earlier. It went well if you want to know. Surzich's answered. Zekrom Bale was the very first head of the Bale clan, and was known to have even greater influence than even Surzich's and the 4 Demon King, making him the de facto leader of the Devil faction. So, where's Naruto? Your future brother-in-law is still getting ready. You know that one wrong move from him and the entire underworld is basically screwed. Azazel shrugged before they both saw Grafia walking toward them with Naruto trailing closely behind her with the Yordle Professor Heimerdinger. Well, there he is. Surzicha-san, you're here. Naruto said, smiling brightly at his girlfriend's older brother, and one of the current 4 Demon King of the underworld. Thank you for coming, everyone. Surzicha smiled and gave Naruto a nod of his head, as the members of his peerage took turns stepping forward to properly introduce themselves, exchanging some friendly greetings with the blonde summoner. As much as he had wanted to use this little free time that he had to get to know his future brother-in-law better, Naruto didn't want to call him here today to chit-chat. Still, there would be time for that later. Surzicha-sama. Grafia greeted the crimson-haired devil with a bow before she informed them, I have finished setting up the barriers around this area. We're ready when you are. Right, let's hope that this will go smoothly. Naruto said as he glanced at Heimerdinger, who also did the same while nodding his head repeatedly at him in agreement. If this gets out of hand, you guys know what to do. Isn't that why we are all here today? Azazel asked, chuckling humorously as he patted his student on the shoulder, making the blonde roll his eyes at him in response, to knock the senses back into you if you lose control. How many of them are there? A couple dozen. Naruto answered with a shrug. Be sure that you don't want us to just step in and help you right from the get-go. Beowulf, one of the 2 pawns of Surzich's, asked with his arms muscular crossing on his chest. Naruto shook his head before answering, no. I have to do this myself, if I want to prove to them that I am worthy to wield their strengths, or have them fought at my sides. I can respect that. Beowulf grinned, nodding his head to the blonde. Surzicha-san, I know this might be too much to ask. He turned over to Surzich's and requested him with a nervous smile. But can you not tell Rias about what we will be doing here today? I don't want her to get worried. As long as you promise me that our powers are not needed. Surzicha said, as he placed a hand on the blonde's shoulder. As a demon king, he could not show favoritism to a single devil, but this would be the least that he could do to repay Naruto for making his sister happy. I promise, Surzicha-san. Naruto nodded his head firmly to him, feeling a lot more confident than before. Good luck, Naruto-sama. Grafia spoke up in her normally calm tone, I will make sure to put you back in line. Right? Naruto chuckled, somewhat nervously as Grafia continued to eye him for a couple more seconds with her beautiful silver eyes, before giving him an encouraging smile finally. Nodding his head to the group of devils and fallen angel, Naruto then turned to the revered inventor, and parted ways with him to walk toward a wide clearing, while taking a look at his watch to take note of which champions were available for summoning, as Azazel, Surzich's, Grafia, and the rest of the strongest peerage in the entire underworld, positioned themselves a few feet behind him, preparing themselves for the worst. Here we go. Naruto announced before he activated his summoning power, calling forth the first one on a long list of champions that he needed to meet today. The summoning caused the dirt to kick up, clouding everyone's vision, and making it hard for them to see properly. Surzich's and the others, however, could feel a powerful and fearsome presence appearing before Naruto, who braced himself. So, you finally summoned me, child. Naruto. With his eyes widening in surprise, Naruto raised his hand and summoned Starfire Spellblade, just in time to block a giant double-edged sword, with something like a throbbing heart near the handle being thrown at him, parrying it, and sending it to the side, before it could turn him into shish kebab, but with a sword bigger than his entire torso instead of a stick. Instead of falling to the ground, the sword suddenly stopped in midair before flying back to its wielder, who then revealed himself to be none other than the World Ender Aatrox, as he took a step toward Naruto, breaking the ground under his feet, while his wings flapping and dispersing the cloud of dirt around him. I guess we can't sit down and talk it out, can we? Naruto asked, as he held up Kale's sword and stared directly into Aatrox's blazing red eyes. Let's get on with it. And Naruto doubted that he would be the last one that he had to fight today. During that match against Sona's Citri and Sona's Peerage, when he faced off against Sasei Hidu and Saji Genshiro, the two reincarnated devils Naruto himself had viewed them as nothing more than their pervert nature. The blonde had come to a realization. If he wasn't willing to put his own life on the line for the sake of getting stronger, then he would be left behind by everyone else. It's time for him to change that. It's time he had his first meetings with the evil champions. Hey there, Naruto-chan. Hearing that, Naruto turned his head and smiled when he saw the girl who he had been waiting for, arriving at his side with a bright smile on her face. And no, it wasn't one of his girlfriends, although it's still hard for him to believe that he had more than one girlfriend, and the number just kept growing. Good morning, Seraphol-sama. Naruto smiled, greeting Seraphol Leviathan, the older sister of Sona Citri and the Demon King Leviathan of the Devil faction, with the honorific that she deserved, since this was the first time the two of them actually interacted with each other, and he did blast her sister off with a full-powered final spark a few days ago. There's no need to call me Seraphol-sama. You can call me Sera-chan or Leviathan. Seraphol chirped, striking a magical girl pose with a playful childish wink and a cute gesture, even though she was wearing a beautiful red and blue yukata with a yellow obi, securing it around her body, instead of her usual pink magical girl outfit, something that she could be seen constantly with even outside of her hit TV show Miracle Leviathan. Right, Sera. Before Naruto could say it, Seraphol had already raised her hand in the air and brought it down the top of his head in a karate chop, which had no force behind it, so Naruto wasn't hurt at all. That's for beating my Sotan and her family. Seraphol said, huffing and then pouting cutely as she then took her hand back and crossed it on her chest. I'm sorry, I guess. Naruto said, responding to Seraphol with a somewhat nervous smile while scratching the back of his head. It's hard to tell if Seraphol was really mad at him for beating Sona Citri or not, but Naruto had been told by Surziches himself that her love for her sister was even more extreme than his love for Rias. No, it's fine. Seraphol said, her expression softening as she smiled at Naruto. You and Rias-tan won fair and square. If you weren't that strong, then Sotan and her family wouldn't have the chance to give it their all, and show everyone their determination and how serious they are about their dream. No one is gonna continue to make fun for them now, and for that, I am very grateful. Seraphol finished with a grateful nod to him, making Naruto smile brightly at her before wincing in pain when the Leviathan suddenly grabbed his cheeks with both hands and pinched hard. But if I ever see you hitting my Sotan that hard again, Naruto-chan, then I will make sure to hit you back myself 10 times harder. I don't care if you are Riatan's beloved, if you try to hurt my Sotan, I will make sure that you will pay, got it? She asked, a dark aura about her even though she's still smiling. Yes, Seraphol-sama. Naruto managed to answer while having his cheeks pinched, feeling nervous again all of a sudden. It won't happen again. I promise. Don't worry, Naruto-chan. I trust you. Rias-tan was right. You're so easy to tease even though you don't really think much about us superior, which I don't really mind. Seraphol giggled before she finally let go of his cheeks, making Naruto smile in relief. She was the most powerful woman in the entire underworld, alright. Even though she didn't look like she was really trying, he felt like he could just rip his face apart as she moved her hands to the side. Let's go. Yusaka-san's attendant must be waiting for us. Yes, please lead the way, Sera-chan. Naruto nodded his head and said, making Seraphol beam at him before leading him into Kyoto, the home of the Kyoto Yokai faction, having been both invited to the place by Yusaka herself. Naruto had been looking forward to seeing Kyoto himself, though he didn't expect the chance for him to do that would come so early. Each year, it had become a tradition for the second-year high school students of Kuo Academy to go on a 3-day school trip to Kyoto with their teachers near the end of the second semester. Considering the number of positive feedbacks that the academy received every year, as well as the fact that Rias just couldn't stop ranting about how great Kyoto were whenever the subject was brought up, must also be because she was a huge Japanophile. The trip was supposed to be a lifetime experience. It did not take it long for the two devils to walk up to a building called Kyoto Surziches Hotel, which was owned by the House of Gremory, and named after Surziches himself. A young girl with light blonde hair wearing the traditional red and white shrine maiden outfit was standing at the front gate, and she seemed to be the one Seraphol had told him to have been waiting for them. Greeting, Seraphol-sama, Naruto-sama. The girl bowed her head to them, upon seeing the two approaching before introducing herself. I am Shiho Urumi, Yusaka-sama's personal assistant. Please follow me, I will lead you to the Yusaka-sama's residence. Yes, please lead the way. Seraphol replied, and the two of them followed the girl to an area that reminded Naruto of paintings that describing the Edo period, passing through an invisible barrier that seemed to be keeping ordinary human from entering, and seeing the place for what it was, the home of Kyoto Yokai. At first glance, Naruto could see that all the houses lining either side of a road made of dirt in the area were old, looking to have been built hundreds of years ago, but they were more or less still in perfect condition. The area was also rather dark, but not that Naruto had problems seeing with his devil's sight, with the only sources of light were the ones that came from the houses, and lantern-like yokai floating around the streets, seemingly minding their own businesses. So, all the yokai in Kyoto live here? Naruto asked as the kitsune assistant as they walked, having made her ears and tail appear when they passed through the barrier. Shiho nodded. More or less, yes. There are yokai living among human in their residential districts, but the majority of us Kyoto yokai prefer to live as close as we can around Yusaka-sama. We call this place the inner capital. Are those humans? No? I heard that they're devils. Devils, eh? It's pretty rare to see them here. Don't think it's ever happened before. So, I'm guessing that it's rare for devils like us to visit the inner capital. After hearing the Yaokai around them said that, Naruto could help but ask out of curiosity. As a matter of fact, yes. Only recently that devil has begun to visit the inner capital. With Seraful Sama being the first, and you being the second. The girl answered him, her fox ears twitching. That said, it is bound to happen eventually. The world is changing for the better, so it is only natural for us to do the same. After passing through what he supposed was a residential area, the three entered a forest with a large river flowing through it, and soon found themselves standing before a massive red torii gate, connected to a huge, immense mansion, with the design of a traditional Japanese building surrounded by a wall that could only be accessed through the massive torii gate. Wait for me, Ariwani-chan. Passing the torii gate, the sounds of hearty laughter could be heard, making Naruto turn his head and see his Gumiho champion Ari skipping around the front garden with a ball in her hand, with a young and relatively short girl with golden blonde hair tied in a ponytail and matching eyes chasing behind her with a huge smile on her face. She also had 9 golden foxtails and matching ears. Much like the other fox girls he had met, her attire was the traditional shrine maiden outfit and tall jetta with white tabi. Hey Ari. Naruto called, waving his hand at his 9-tailed fox champion. Naruto. Ari exclaimed before she threw herself at her summoner, putting her arms around his neck in a warm, tight hug, as Seraful smiled at them, while the fox assistant Shiho bowed her head to the blonde girl who had followed after Ari. Why didn't you tell me that you would come? She asked, after pulling back from him but still keeping her arms around his shoulder. Nah, I didn't want to ruin the surprise. The blonde summoner grinned, before he turned his attention over to the youngest fox girl, who was eyeing him rather judgmentally. And who is this young lady? Naruto, this is Kunu. She is Isaka's daughter. Naruto nodded his head in understanding as Ari turned to Kunu and continued on with the introduction. Isaka did say that she and her daughter were the only 9-tailed foxes in the world before Ari came in, so it wasn't difficult for Naruto to take a guess of who she could be. Kunu, this is Naruto Uzumaki, the very special friend of mine that I have been telling you about. Oh wow, now I feel honored all of a sudden. Naruto grinned at his fox champion, who winked back at him in response before smiling at Kunu, offering the little girl his hand. Pleased to meet you, Kunu-chan. Although reluctantly, Kunu accepted the friendly gesture and took his hand, shaking his hand lightly before she pulled back and turned to Shiho, without even saying anything to him. Naruto couldn't help but have the impression that she didn't like him very much for some reasons. Thank you for bringing them here, Shiho-san. I can take it from here. The one-tailed fox girl smiled and lowered her head to the daughter of her clan leader, before bursting into flames and disappearing. Please come with me, Seraful Sama. I will bring you to my mother. Kunu said, bowing her head respectfully to the Leviathan Demon King of the Devil faction. Yes, please lead the way, Kunu-chan. Seraful said, before Kunu turned around and made her way toward the mansion, with Seraful, Naruto and Ari following closely behind her. As they walked, Naruto couldn't help but ask, Hey Ari, why do I have the feeling that Kunu-chan doesn't like me very much? She doesn't. Ari answered with a playful giggle, making Naruto arch an eyebrow in surprise at the straightforwardness. When I told her about you and how amazing you were, she actually only paid attention to the fact that as my summoner, you could take me away from her whenever you wanted, and you could also abuse your power to command me to do lewd things against my will. Seriously? She's just a child, Naruto. Ari giggled. Isaka told me that Kunu had always wanted an older sister, so when I came in, she quickly saw me as one. It's actually quite nice, you know, to have a younger sister to play with and to look after. The Yaokai around here, especially the one from the Kitsune clan, also treat me very kindly, a little too respectful for my taste because of the number of my tails, but they are all so nice to me. I am happy for you, Ari. Naruto smiled, making Ari nod her head at him and respond with one of her own, smiling softly and beautifully at her summoner. After that, the group arrived before Isaka, who greeted them warmly before the meeting that forged a bridge between the Kyoto Yaokai faction and the Devil faction, representing the 3 biblical factions began. In a few more days, summer would be over and it's time for them to return to the human world. Remember Naruto-kun, from now on you can think of us as your own family. If you ever feel like returning here, don't hesitate. Lord Gremory said with a warm smile as he placed his hands on Naruto's shoulders. I will be looking forward to the day we can meet again, and please send your parents my regard. I will, too, Sama. Naruto nodded, grinning brightly at the man. Having spent half of the summer around Ria's parents, Naruto had gotten a lot more comfortable as addressing them the way they wanted him. Although he couldn't say the same about Ria's, as she still blushed whenever she was around and hearing him calling her parents mom and dad, despite seemingly having no problem addressing his parents the same way. Girls were so hard to understand sometimes. Take good care of yourself and your family, Rias. You know where to find us if you ever need our help. Venelana spoke to her daughter while gently stroking her hair. I understand, Akasama. Nodding her head in satisfaction, Venelana then turned her attention over to Naruto, and spoke her piece to him as well, making Rias blush even harder at what she then said. Please watch over my selfish daughter there in the human world for me, Naruto-kun. Akasama. What are you saying? I will do my best, Kasama. Naruto nodded his head at the brown-haired woman, who ignored her daughter's outburst and smiled approvingly at Naruto, before he was grabbed and dragged away by an embarrassed Rias. Take care of yourself, everyone. Velanana called after them when the rest of the Occult Research Club departed. Ra, the future of our family is really bright, isn't it? She asked, smiling at her husband who couldn't help but nod his head to her in response. During the trip back in the train, Naruto spent the majority of his time doing his summer homework, something that he had neglected completely in favor of his training. Rias, Akeno and quite literally everyone else had done theirs, since they did not have a scarily powerful silver-haired maid trying to turn them into a popsicle every day, and had some free time at night to do their homework, leaving Naruto to do it alone. The homework, while excessively long, weren't really that difficult, it's just... Smack. What? Naruto asked, reaching up with one hand to touch the spot Rias had just hit him with the notebook of his homework, after taking a look over it for him, wanting to make sure that he did it properly. Do everything again. You got a couple wrong. The crimson-haired heiress said sternly with an overly sweet smile. I wouldn't accept any of my servants to do their work poorly, understood. But I am also your boyfriend. All the more reason to do your homework flawlessly. Now redo everything. Everything. But you said I only got a couple wrong. Naruto tried to reason, but Rias shut him up by raising his notebook over her head again, before putting it down and opening to an empty page. I want to play League. He pleaded, looking at Kuroka and Kaneko, who were playing ranked flex with Luffy, while Office were watching them in interest at their own table. Evelyn, meanwhile, were once again hanging out with the church trio, something that she could be seen doing a lot lately, having grown close to them through Ashia. She seemed to be teaching them something, and with how much Urina looked torn between continuing to listen to her and performing an exorcism on the ancient demon of Runeterra, it appeared that she was up to no good again. You can play plenty once we're home, or at the very least, after you have done your homework properly. Rias shook her head and said sweetly, placing one hand on his notebook, and tapping it with her index finger. The pawn groaned and then picked up his pen to start redoing his homework, with Rias joining him this time, and helping like a strict teacher. Around them, the rest of the orc couldn't help but chuckle in amusement. It wasn't difficult for them to see that this was just Rias trying to get back at her boyfriend for going along with her parents, while they were trying to embarrass her. A few hours later, the Gremory train arrived at the underground station in the human world. Naruto was the first to jump out of the train, smiling as he took in a deep breath of air and stretched. The underworld was nice and all, but there's no way that it could compare to the liveliness and normality of the human world. Let's go home, everyone. Rias announced as she stepped out of the train with the rest of the Occult Research Club. But before they could do that, a certain gentle-looking, handsome young man with blonde hair and golden eyes, which were almost always closed or squinted, appeared and approached them. Iodora, what are you doing here? Rias asked in surprise as Naruto hardened his gaze at the high-class devil. But the Astaroth heir ignored both him and Rias, and focused his attention only on Ashia. Ashia Argento, we finally met. Do I know you? Ashia asked, looking slightly confused. With a sincere expression, Diodora continued to address the former nun, so you have forgotten about me. We met that time. He then unbuttoned his shirt, and showed a very large scar on his chest. Ashia's eyes widened when she saw it, appearing to have finally remembered him. This wound, could it be that? Yes, my name is Diodora Astaroth. When you healed me at that time, you weren't able to handle it to the point where it didn't leave a scar, but my life was saved thanks to your sacred gear. Now, I have come to see you. He then walked toward Ashia, who got extremely uncomfortable at his sudden approach. Fortunately for her, Diodora stopped when Naruto raised an arm and pushed Ashia behind him, while glaring at the pureblood devil. Can you get out of my way, you filthy? Before Diodora could finish, a cold chill suddenly ran down his spine, before he felt a malicious presence creeping behind him, and something like the sharp pointy tip of a blade, lightly grazing the scar on his chest. The Astaroth heir spun around abruptly, but didn't see anyone behind him. Only when he turned back did he came face to face with the creepily grinning face of Agony's embrace, Evelyn, in her demon shade form. Boo. HHH. Diodora screamed in terror and fell back, crawling away on his hands and feet, as Evelyn emerged from her shadow while smiling in satisfaction. The ancient demon of Agony then took a step toward him, her lasher moving around her menacingly, but stopped when a group of girls ran out from their hiding spots, and came to stand protectively in front of Diodora, appearing to be none other than his peerage. Kill her. Kill that fucking demon. Diodora screamed to his queen while pointing his hand at Evelyn. Oh my, where did all that delicacy and ability go? Evelyn asked, winking playfully at him as she put a hand on her hip and leaned forward, showing your true color I see. Try it. Naruto growled as he and Rias walked up to stand next to his champion, a certain dark red blade in his hand, unleashing a powerful aura. The sight of the weapon alone was enough to make Diodora's peerage back off nervously. Take your master and leave this instant, unless you want to fight us here. Rias spoke in a firm tone. The queen of Diodora Astaroth looked conflicted, but it didn't look like she had another choice in the matter. Not when the strongest queen in the entire underworld, and the Ouroboros Dragon God office, were standing there behind the Gremory group. Grabbing her still terrified master, the queen raised her hand and casted her magic, making a large magic circle appear underneath their feet and teleport herself, Diodora and the other members of his peerage away. Wow, that was scary. Irina finally said after she had made her angel wings disappear, having rushed to her side with Zenobia to protect her. I thought we were going to fight them here for sure. Are you okay, Ashia? Zenobia asked, looking concernedly at her friend. I'm fine. Thank you, Zenobia. The former nun said, smiling at her two friends before looking at Naruto. He nodded his head to her with a small smile. Anyway, Naruto, would you like to tell when and how you managed to gain control of that weapon? Rias couldn't help but ask, walking up to her boyfriend with her arms crossing under her chest. Ah, you see, it's kinda long story. Naruto said, chuckling nervously while backing off from Rias and the others. Evelyn giggled as she watched Naruto being courted by not just Rias, but also Akeno, Ravel and Kaneko, with Ashia, Zenobia and Irina following closely behind them, expecting an answer from her summoner. Evelyn, yes? The demoness asked, smiling sweetly as she turned around and looked at Grafia, who had walked behind her. Try not to do that again in the future, Grafia said. Her tone clearly showed that it was not a demand, but a request. Why didn't you stop me then? You could have stopped me, couldn't you? Evelyn asked teasingly, leaning a little toward Grafia, who remained as calm as ever. Why did you try to scare him then? Grafia responded with her own question, tilting her head to the side and smiled when she saw Evelyn glancing at Ashia, even though she chose to remain silent. She knew very well that Evelyn didn't do it just because Diodora was about to insult her summoner. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.